What's going on, guys? It is the middle of February and it's like 70 degrees out right now, and it's supposed to be 70 tomorrow and then like 60s all week, and hopefully for the foreseeable future it'll be around that and not go like below freezing, which means I'm going to put on the Summers today. But that's not really that exciting, but what is exciting is I actually have new brakes too, because my brakes are pretty much gone on this car. I've got like 55,000 miles. So I got some StopTech Sport brakes, which will hopefully be better than traditional OEM brakes. And also I'm hoping to go back to Tail the Dragon this year. So I think that'll help a lot, because I think when I went last year, my brakes were already kind of going and this didn't feel that great. So let's get that going and just cross our fingers that it doesn't snow for the foreseeable future. Alright, so I've got the new pads in, old pads out, but now the tricky part, what seems to be at least, is getting, if you can see it, is getting these pistons compressed because they will not fit over the new brake pads. So I'm actually going to use some cardboard, this is some pretty stiff cardboard actually, and a C-clamp, and try to clamp that down and see if I can get it down. You know what, while I'm at it, I think I'm gonna take the mud flaps off. You know, I enjoyed them while it lasted, but some of the bolts are actually came off of this thing already. And I don't know, I just wanna switch it up a little bit, and I'm not sure if I like them anymore. I might, but I think I'll take them off for now. Maybe I'll toss them back on in the winter. We'll see. But I think we're gonna do that while we're at it, because it's just gonna be easy with the wheel off and everything. Alright, I've got the fronts done. It actually was a lot simpler than I thought. The C-clamp worked perfectly, so I just went in there, used the C-clamp, tightened it till it pushed the pistons back in so I can get them over the brakes, because the new brake pads are so much thicker. Obviously, they're brand new. And then when you look at the old brake pads, they're right here. I mean, there is no focus, but they are super thin. And there's like nothing left on them, and which is what they told me about 5,000 miles ago. I just didn't have time to change them, so. Anyway, fronts are done. I saved you the time of watching the front and left. I mean, there's nothing different. I'm gonna do the rears now, and then I made sure to put my brake fluid cap back on for when I'm just gonna spin the car around, so it's easier to do it when I hang half the car out of the garage. But yeah, that's about it. And mud flaps are off too, so I think I'm gonna switch it up, take the mud flaps off. I might put them back on later if I like them. It should be pretty simple. All that's really left to do actually is I have my impact gun here that I use, which is fantastic. I love this thing because it's just like, you know, obviously it's instant on and off. But I don't think they torque enough to the spec that the car really needs. So getting them off is fine, getting them on is fine, but I do have a torque wrench, so I'm just gonna take my torque wrench, it's up here, torque them to spec, and then flip the car around and do the rears. All right, you probably thought the video was done. Unfortunately, it's not. It's been 1 week since the first half of the video, me putting the brakes on, and driving to work and just driving around, it doesn't feel right, and I think I know what's going on. I think one of the front pads is dragging on the rotor a little bit. It's just one of those things where it started off as I could feel it, just because you're so used to your car, because I have 55,000 miles or so in my car, where say I'm in fourth gear going 40 miles an hour and I just let off the gas and it's gonna engine brake down a little bit, it feels like it's engine braking stronger. I think it's because there's some rubbing. And then when I finally get up to highway speed going to work this week, there's definitely a sound of something rubbing. It's not extremely loud, but I can hear it. And I think it's coming from the front left. I'm not quite sure, but anyway, there's definitely some rubbing. I think the rest of the brakes feel fine. It really feels like it's coming from the front left. So I'm gonna take off the front too though, see if anything's rubbing. And something that I did not do, which was my fault, I should have done, is when the entire wheel was off, to really just like rotate when the tire wheel's off and then the caliper's off as well and the pads are just in there, just to see if I can loosely rotate the wheel to make sure there's nothing rubbing. Kind of forgot to do that. But we're gonna do that now, and I'll show you when I get in there what I think's going on, and then hopefully that fixes it. All right, so now as soon as I found my 14mm wrench, I take off these two back, I don't know if I showed this earlier in the video, but I'm gonna take off these two back nuts. This will be able to lift this head off the caliper, which is how you install the pads. And when I take that off, I think I should be able to spin this freely, or at least somewhat freely. But right now I think there is some rubbing, so I'm gonna try to do that and see if I can spin this, and if not, then I probably messed something up, so we'll see how it goes. All right, so now I'm back to having the pads off. So the pads go, in case you don't know, the pads go right here. This is the caliper that there's two bolts on the back of the caliper. I undid the bottom one, and then I loosened the top one so I could swing it up. Swung it up, I just taped it up here so that it holds itself while I'm doing stuff here. Now, as you can see, I can move this freely. Obviously it's heavy because it's a big fat rotor, but you can move this freely, which is how it should be. I believe what I did is I took my pads, and when I put them in, they were slightly too snug or just put in somewhat improperly, and this couldn't move freely. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the pads back in and then hope that once they're in, this still moves freely, because I think they were rubbing before and they won't rub if I put them in correctly. So let's try that out. So here's what's going on. I uninstalled and reinstalled the passenger side pads. And now, I think these are okay. This thing spins freely and everything. It sounds like, here, see if you can hear this. It's hard to spin with one hand. Let's try again. It sounds like there's a slight rub, but that might get adjusted. Let me put it this way. I never thought it was from the right side. It sounded like it was coming from the left side. And these pads went in and out cleanly, perfectly fine. So I might just see how this runs. However, on the driver's side of the car is where I thought it was coming from. And this pad for the back, so there's no pads in right now, this back pad does not want to go in. And I've gotten it in a couple times, but it never feels correctly how it's going in. Those, on the other side, they slide right in. On this side, it really takes a lot of force. So I guess I'm just gonna keep trying, but I think this side was the problem. It even looks like right here on the pad, there's a little bit of like some rubbing that was going on, which is where I think it was coming from this side. So I'm gonna keep trying, but I can't really get it in nicely. I have to like force it in. So we'll see, and we'll see if everything still spins freely. All right, I got the pads in, and I think I know what was going on. Hopefully this fixes the problem. It may not though, but we're gonna see. So what happened is, it would be easier to show you this if I didn't have the pads in, but I don't want to take them out because it was so hard to get them back in. Anyway, if you see this hook right here, this metal piece, there's a little hook at the end of this that hooks essentially into part of the caliper. Now, I used to push this hook all the way in as far as it could go so that it would hook. There's like these notches I'd never really realized where this can hook. So there's multiple notches for this to hook in.
Now I was hooking on the closest to the rotor, and I think that was making it get really snug and not really sit well. Now, I hooked it into like the farthest away one. I'm not sure if that's correct, that's the problem. Now, if you look right here, it spins completely freely and there's zero sound. There's no rub whatsoever. But when I put the calipers back on, I'm sure it's gonna get pretty snug and there might be some rub. So we're just gonna put them on, see how it goes. If that didn't fix it, I don't know what it is. I'm probably gonna have to take it to the shop and pay whatever, a couple $100 and have them just figure it out and make sure it's all good. So anyway, I'm gonna do that and then I'll get back and see how this looks.
All right, so I actually just took it for a real quick spin in my neighborhood, didn't get over like 20 miles an hour. But the one thing I noticed is that when the brakes were bad, when they were rubbing, it felt like you needed more gas all the time. So just even a normal going from second to third when I'm accelerating 10 miles an hour from 20 to 30, it felt like you had to give it more gas, and this doesn't feel like that. So that's a good start. Again, I've only gone like 25, 30 miles an hour tops in my neighborhood, and I don't feel it. The true test is probably gonna be the highway, because I could hear the rub. And also, this is probably really unscientific, but when I was driving to work this whole week with the rubbing, I have like a 25 mile drive to work. And I know it's probably not that scientific, but the miles per gallon gauge in the car, I get 30 miles per gallon, give or take like half a mile per gallon every time I go to and from work, because it's a flat highway, same every time, no traffic, cruise control. So this whole week I got like 27 to 28. So I definitely think there was rubbing, and now Monday when I go back to work, when I do that drive, hopefully it's 30 miles per gallon. And if it is, I think may have solved the issue. I know that's not scientific at all, but whatever, I'm gonna go with it. So anyway, thanks for watching. I suck at maintenance, as you can tell, and I will update you if there's anything else. And sorry this video is probably super long, but there's just so much going on with that summer tires and swapping brakes twice. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.